All right. I'm going to show you guys how time works. Really, time plays more than anything. It's not really like working. So you have your second hand, your minute hand, and your hour hand, right? And they're constantly spinning over and over again. But then they have times where they overlap. And when they overlap, they all laugh, they have a good time, they get back together, and then they continue back on their journey and they spin, right? Those moments in life where you get back together with like yourself, your family, your loved ones, the good things in your life, you laugh, eat a good movie, you cry, you just express yourself at a certain time. That's when all three of the hands line up. Now, most people don't use like time in a circle. They look in the corner over here and look at time in a box. And you can look at time in a box. That's fair. But I think time is more elegant. It's more elegantly understood in a circle, we'll say. And I'm going to show you how elegant it is. It's actually quite simple. Each of these hands, right, represent the triune or the Trinity model that most people claim to be worshiping or fearful of. Well, and you know what? They are. They're scared of it, which is why they ignore it. You have each of these hands representing a portion of you. We could call it the brain, the gut, and the heart, but I'm not going to do that to you. That's probably hit too close to home. Let's call it the mind, the body, and the spirit. That's what we'll call it, to keep it metaphysical. We don't need it to be practical. And these three circles are actually the relationship of one circle interacting with another. You sort of, in a way, always interacting with yourself, right? So I need to fix my labels, actually. Some of these are incorrect. I'm going to relabel them real quick. So the poloidal axis in the middle, right, is the body. And the big one is the mind. And the one that connects them is the spirit. Real simple. So if somebody wants to tell you how like the consciousness works, all you need is a compass. You can use a square or a straight edge if you need to. You definitely can. But you could also just use a compass, put one circle inside of another, and then you can get to work and tell people how the universe works. And this is how the universe works. You have two circles, but really three. Because even though it looks like two circles in one line, this only looks like a line straight down. If we were able to turn and rotate this, we would see that it has some sort of length, some sort of depth, and we can measure that length and depth, and that would create another loop. So this one's kind of rotating in, up and over, and then it's coming all the way around back here. So it's kind of hooking around, if you see that. So when we add some curvature, we could see, and we add some depth. Little hooks, add some depth, right? I love drawing, by the way. I'm a nerd. I'm really bad at it right now, but I'm learning. It's kind of cool, Anyway, the long circle. So let me slow down a little bit. The toroidal axis, the radial axis, and the poloidal axis are like magnetic, toroidal, photonic, phononic terms of how a photon or a phonon works, because they work very similarly. And they have different rotations of like the outside and the inside and the middle and the relationship. And we know how it works. And yet they don't tell you that you should be applying it to the metaphor in like church of Father, Son, and Spirit, if you want, or in the family, mother, father, and child. They don't tell you that you're supposed to be using it, because then the light will respond to you. Yeah. And that's where the magic occurs. So when you operate in rhythms, then the light responds, and then you can move from there. Yeah. And it's simple. Gnostic truth is simple. It's so it's so simple. So you have the outside, right? And remember, these are ratios. We know how a clock works, by the way, if you want to get into the nitty gritty. We know that like 1 hour equals 60 minutes. And if I'm doing my math correctly, 720 seconds. So we have these ratios that we can use where we relate them from the mind to the body to the spirit. We can see how they relate to each other mathematically if we want to get into the weeds. But if we don't want to get into the weeds, we can keep it simple. stay in our circle and see how everything relates to each other. Remember, a photon, a phonon, magnetic fields, torsion fields, they all share this basic model, and then from there it kind of branches out and they do other things. But it's important to understand how this works. And like, if we really get into the nitty gritty, we'll get into the math, right? But the math shows the proof. We don't really need proof. You can kind of use your own spirit in relationship with your other structures to kind of feel what I'm talking about right now. And we'll get into the math later. Each of these circles kind of relates to each other. So it's like, if you turn this point this way that much, then this one's going to go like this way that much. And then this one's going to go like, so like we rotate this one here, then this one's going to go here, and then this one's going to go like here. And they're all going to have relationships of, you move one to get movement of the other, to get movement of the other. And so like, it's very interesting that like the mechanics of like alchemy, of being a goldsmith, if you will, are sort of like a locksmith, where you have to like turn one dial to get another dial to get another dial. But when they all line up, then boom, it opens, and then your job's done. That's it. You know, it's the same thing in alchemy, where you're moving one element to move another element to move another element, and then when they all get into a line, you kind of more have the opportunity for like anything to happen, because your resonance portals are open, right? So if this like is the example right here, then maybe if we like, if we go this way this much, maybe that puts us here this much, and now that put us here this much. And interestingly enough, the way it would work, it would be like this relationship plus this relationship in conjunction with this relationship, right, would create an energetic field that allows you to like put something in, throw something out, move this over here, move that over there. And that's more of how like the science of it works, right? The clock shows you how this works extremely well, by the way, if you're willing to get into the math of it. But I've done my math. I don't really feel like getting into the math right now. But if you do see like the different angles, right, and you were to divide all of this up all of a sudden, then you would get different zones, and you'd be able to do different things based on like, you know, basic, simple math. But it has application to the spiritual side of what we call the body, the spirit, and the mind. So you do the math, and then you apply it to yourself, and then you get strong. What ends up then happening is that you have control over your time, and then you can fill your time with your imagination, and that's how you're supposed to kind of create a life. In the last video, we talked about like the Eye of Horus, and kind of yapped about that. And this one is, I'm trying to like, it's half complicated because you got to study, but it's also so simple that if you don't study, I just think you ain't shit and you're lazy, you know? Like, I don't believe in excuses. So yeah, you can get a donut, you can count. We're going to get into the rhythms, we'll get into the binary. We're going to keep dropping off more and more information. And yeah, that's it. Love and peace. Peace and love. Adios.